Alright, so here we are on our last video of the weekend. Symbolism, mood, tone, and style, aka this is the really hard stuff. Everything we've gone over up until now has been pretty basic. This is where did you guys hear that? This is where the very difficult stuff. Hang on, Ian, are you okay? Alright, anyway, I guess I should just ignore the screaming, and if you guys hear it, you should ignore it too. This is going to take me long enough, and I have to do it in 15 minutes, or the video cuts me off. So we're going to start with symbolism. Anytime a person, a place, or an object represents something greater than itself, something that it's not, that's symbolism. And usually the test is going to ask you how to explain how a concrete object, like something, an object, represents an abstract idea. That sounds pretty easy, but it's not really. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Alright, one of the things that connects a person or connects an item to a symbol is because it represents a time that a character's viewpoint has changed. That doesn't always happen, but a good example of something that we've done this year that it does happen is in The Book Thief. Whenever Liesel's journal, or her book, The Book Thief, represents a couple different things. It represents Death's fascination with Liesel's story because he carries it around, and it also represents Liesel's survival at the end because the words are literally what kept her alive, what saved her life, because she was in the basement. On the other hand, sometimes symbols are just universal, and they are connected to a universal truth or a continuous meaning. Another example from this year of that is To Kill a Mockingbird. Every time the mockingbird is mentioned, it's mentioned because it's always a symbol of innocence. Anytime you see the bird, it's never doing anything but just singing, and its traits don't change. They don't ever go away. They never mean something different than what they do originally. So the mockingbird is a continuous symbol throughout the entire book. Usually, on the bright side, usually the test is going to be asking you more of those concretely connected, this is a moment where this character's viewpoint changed kind of questions. And those are a little bit easier than the continuous all the time. As you're looking at your answer choices, always want to look for a cause and effect relationship. If there is a cause and an effect stated in the answer choices, and then chances are good that might be kind of what you're looking for. Usually, whenever we get to these really figurative kind of questions that it's not concrete, it's not black and white, a lot of the answer choices may seem iffy. They usually, a lot of them seem to make sense. Maybe sometimes all four of them make sense, but only one truly expresses the item's significance in a way that you can go back into the text and prove. So this is another one of those building a case kind of things. Another way to do this is to ask, what would I be missing from the story? What would change if this item had never showed up? So if Ilsa had never given Liesel the journal and she'd never started writing The Book Thief, how would the story change? Would it lose any meaning? Well, of course it would. Her life wouldn't have been saved in the end. And Death probably would never have developed the same fascination with her because he wouldn't have known her story as well. Alright, now from symbolism we're going to move to mood and tone. Mood and tone is kind of one of those difficult things that, kids have a really difficult time with. Now, I'm going to go back one slide because I forgot about this. A really easy way to remember the difference between mood and tone is that the mood is how you feel while you're reading, and how the author feels is the tone. In the question, you always want to look for the keywords of mood, tone, atmosphere, feeling, or sense of. Those will be in the question stem. Those will be the kind of things that they ask you about. One thing that works really well, whoops, I've gone back one screen too many, and there we go. One thing that works really well is to pretend to be a movie director. That in particular works for mood. How would you set up this scene? What would it look like? What feeling would you want to create in the person who's watching it? What feeling did you have as you were reading it? So mood is a little bit easier than tone because you're only having to interpret your own feeling about that. Also, looking at the author's word choices, that's a very important thing to do. Anytime you got 4 answer choices, so you want to pull out the words and phrases that could support each answer choice, and you're building a case again. Which one has the most support? Either proving when the mood is peaceful, or maybe when the author's tone is hostile. What pieces of text evidence can you pull out that will actually prove that this does happen in the story? If you can't support it, then it's probably not the right answer. Always think about how you feel while you're reading, and then look at the word choices to try and determine how the author was feeling when he or she was writing the story. And you also need, especially when you're looking for tone, to read between the lines. Try not to look just for what was said, but also what information wasn't said, what was left out, what feeling do you pick up on behind the sound. Now, I know it's not possible for you to read out loud to yourself on the EOGs, but try to hear it in your head. Try to hear what the author sounds like, and that will help you with the tone. It just is more difficult because it's harder for you to imagine somebody else's, like the inside of somebody else's head, than imagine how you're feeling yourself as you're reading it. Alright, from there we're going to move to style. Style is so hard, guys, because it covers so much. They might ask you about the use of verb tense. They might ask you about the use of dialect or dialogue in the language. They might ask you about the use of a particular sentence structure, why an author uses a fragment, why there's a list here, why this phrase is repeated, why is this in first person point of view, why is this in third person point of view. All of those things are style decisions that are made by the author. So it's not just necessary for you to look at what it says, but you also need to remember how it's said, whom it's said by, why it's worded the way it is, what the author's mindset was, what the purpose of saying it that way was. Style is very, very difficult, and it does require you to kind of try to think like that author. And it is one of the more higher level things that you will do. But in any case, the correct answer choice is always the one that has the most support, and that's always going to be specific and consistent to any question that you're asked on the EOG. The one that can be supported the best, the one that has the most proof, is the correct answer choice, and that works for style too. Style questions, they're going to ask you about any number of things. They might ask you how an author achieves an effect, or why they would want to create that effect. It's just something that you have to practice with. And we are going to practice on Tuesday with the technique. But for the assignment for this particular video, there's just one thing I want you to do. I want you to go back into the last paragraph of the selection that we've been practicing with. Read it and look at this question. I want you to answer this question with as much text support as you can offer me. Prove your answer. So don't just give me A, B, C, or D. Tell me which one and why you believe that. The question is, in the last paragraph, what does the author do to slow down the action? Does he A, switch tense and speak directly to the reader? B, use persuasive language and credible evidence? C, shift point of view from first person to third person? Or D, use language that appeals to the senses? Really look at this question carefully. Look at the last paragraph carefully. Find your text support. Make sure you've done the assignments from the other 2 videos. And have a great rest of the weekend. This is my last video, so